Today was bad. Light work, people. Light work. It seems we're soft all over the pitch. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's well. I say good evening, and that must mean that I'm back in the UK. Because normally I've been saying good morning when it's been good evening, and good afternoon been good evening, and people be saying, "Where are you, Grizz?" And I've been on a bit of a tour. I went on a tour to sort of like get myself ready for this game. Even that tour, couldn't get me ready for this game. What a game, people! What a game! Liverpool go to the Etihad in what was seen as a must win or a must not lose. We'll get into that. Absolute epic, top of the table clash, and we draw 2-2. People, welcome. As you can see, one familiar face, one new face. Well, he's been on with me before, but first familiar face. Dan, how are we, pal? How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, mate, tired, emotionally drained. But yeah, listen, not a terrible result at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm happy enough. I'm content. Obviously, we're going to get into the details and matters in a minute, but lots to talk about. But we live to fight another day.
That is the key line, isn't it? That's the key line. We live to fight another day. Andy, you're most welcome, mate. How you doing? You okay? I know you was on the we done a Cavallo chat, didn't we?
Yeah. I'm good. Grizz, you good, mate?
Yeah, I am. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very tired.
Happy to be back.
Battered. Yeah, bit jet lagged. But it is what it is. Happy to be back and watching the Reds, and happy to be, as Dan says, still in it. Yeah. That's the name of the game. We went into this game, Andy, and we spoke about it, and we were talking about it in terms of the main thing is we got to be in it afterwards. We can't be 4 points behind this Man City team. Do you know what it is? In the build-up, guys, I don't know about you guys, but I find as though sometimes the momentum carries on into the fan base, which is absolutely fine. That's what it's about. The fans build that momentum, and it goes over to social media, and the fans in the stadium feel it, and the players feel it, the coach feels it. But I thought there was a feeling that we're playing like Man United or a Chelsea even. This is a level above. You'd say us, on a par with us. We were going away to Man City, who are the current champions. And it was never going to be a walk in the park in terms of, we're favourites. It's probably the only game in world football that I wouldn't make us favourites for. Would you agree with that?
100%. 100%. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but before the match, obviously it would be great for us to win, because we get to the 2 points above them. But everyone on here knows, and I'm sure most of the fans know, even that 2 points above them, it's not done and dusted. So not to lose the match was my mentality going into watching this game today, just not to lose the game. And we did that, man, and that's a big thing. I think that's a massive thing. And I think mentally it sort of like makes City think, you know what, they're not gone away yet. This lot, they're not going away, so that helps when they go into their big games that they've got to play. There's every game now, Grizz, with 7 games to go, is massive, isn't it? It's cup final football now. From now to the end of the season, it's cup final football.
And you know what, Dan? When we talk about cup final football, what do we say about cup final football? It's not about the performance; it's about the result. And look, let's call it a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. I thought the start of the game was pretty reminiscent of the start at Anfield, if you remember, in that first half, where they just seemed like sort of first to everything, sort of the triangles all over the pitch. They just didn't let us touch the ball. I didn't expect us to start like that. Was you slightly disappointed maybe with the start?
Yeah, massively disappointed, I'd say. But for a few weeks now, our performances have been under par, but we've been getting results. And everyone's been saying essentially what you've said there. It doesn't matter how you play as long as you get the result. And that's fine. And that's been fine. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, but we've got City soon. And you can't play like that against City. But we did for 45 minutes. They ran rings round us for a long period of that first half. We had 5 minutes build up to our goal whereby we actually put something together. But either side of that, we were woeful. And I don't say that with ease, because I love this football club, I love this football team, but we were awful today. They're very good. Let's get it right. They're an exceptional football team.
Yeah,
but we made it. We made it very easy for them though in the first half. Very easy.
What would you put that down to, Dan? I get what you're saying, right? But from my point of view, sometimes we did make it very easy, but I thought they made it very difficult for us in terms of sometimes you've got to praise, because I didn't think they're going to come out like that. So, for example, we can probably go back to the selections of both teams today, because it's very interesting how both teams set up. So, do you remember he picked Jesus against us at Anfield?
Yeah.
And he probably hasn't, I haven't got the stats to hand, but I don't think he's picked many. He hasn't started many games since, but he's brought him back for this game. Why do you think he brought back Jesus for this particular game and then set him up the way they did? Because he set him up to the right, didn't he? And he played Kevin De Bruyne through the middle. And then opposite of that, we went with the same front three that we went with against them at Anfield, which I was... disappointment's the stupid word to use, because how can you be disappointed when any of those front five are selected for Liverpool? But I was surprised tactically that we went with the same three as last time, because of the lack of control we had, ball retention we had in that first game at Anfield. So just those two selections, did they tactically, did you think this is an interesting setup, both teams?
Go on, Andy, by all means.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to. I think it's just a familiarity, isn't it, Grizz? With especially with City's selection of Jesus. I think he always plays well against Liverpool. He's also very good at tracking back. I think Pep likes that within his game. And with us, I tend to agree. I do listen, like you said. How can you be disappointed with having a team with Jota, Mane, and Salah in it? But I've always believed that he's our best number 9. I think he plays that role fantastically well. I don't think we've got any other player that plays that role really well. Don't get me wrong, Jota is excellent through the middle, but he's more of a box player for me. He's not someone that can pick up pockets, feed others into the game. I think Bobby's exceptional at doing that. So I probably would have gone for Bobby, but I know that he wasn't in training on Friday. He wasn't in any of the training pictures. So I don't know whether Klopp had rested him, or he might have picked something up, or on the verge of picking something up, and sort of maybe that was a decision to play that front three today. I can maybe understand why Diaz was on the bench, where City got tired, and then he can come on, with that electric pace and cause a lot of problems in that last, 20, 30 minutes or wherever he came on. But I just go back to, like, your question with the selections of both teams today. I think it's more like a familiarity when they play each other. Players that are trusted in them games, like a Jesus and stuff like that, which is why I think Pep went that way with City.
Dan, did anything stand out from the selections of both teams tactically for you before the game, that where you was proved right or where you was proved wrong? Because we all have our preconceived ideas how the game's going to go when we see the teams, don't we? Did you envisage something different from us? I did. Did you envisage anything different from them? I did.
I didn't expect Gabriel Jesus to play from the right. I definitely thought he'd be central. There's absolutely no doubt about that in my mind, because he's sort of the only really 9 option they've got, isn't he? He's the closest they've got to a striker. So to play him and then not play him up front is a strange one in many ways. But obviously it worked really well. He had a good game, I thought, and he has got a good record against Liverpool, like Andy says. The biggest surprise for me in the whole sort of selection scenario was not playing Firmino. If I had to nail my colours to the mast, apart from your Van Dijks, your Salahs and your Alissons, I'd have had a lot of money on Bobby Firmino playing today. I think he's been exceptional recently. And not only that, I know you want to touch on Jota in a bit more detail later. As clinical and as lethal as Jota continues to prove to be, his all-round game has been really poor for a while. And I felt like today was a game whereby you needed the ball to stick. And the best person making the ball stick in the world, by the way, up front, is Bobby Firmino. And we just didn't have that. And that's why I come back to my original point from earlier. we didn't get started. We couldn't keep the ball. We had no one and no way of getting hold of the ball, apart from 5 minutes in the first half. That's why I said we made it easy. Yes, they were brilliant. Yes, their pressing was immense. But if you can't keep possession, you've got no chance.
It was frustrating watching as well, from my point of view as well. I'm pretty much like you. I agree with everything you said there. And it's true. We've got Don's in the building, who's actually a Man City fan. He was in the call-in show last night, and a fantastic call as well. He says, I don't really think you played that bad. We just didn't allow you to play. You haven't been great of late, but effective, if you have to be honest. And that's pretty much. I pretty much agree with that, Andy. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, same.
I get what, and I mostly agree with what Dan's saying about in terms of we made it easy for them. I didn't expect them to start off with that pace though. I thought it's going to be more cagey, but it was thrown out the window with the start, and then we had no choice but to stick in there, kind of, like a box on the ropes, and then just hope for that second wind, and they'll tire. And obviously we'll get into sort of the second half, but I think we've got a super chat here, and it's kind of what I want to talk about. He says, Jesvin Jose, appreciate the support, bro. He says, I wasn't a big fan of Ginny when he was here. Don't know why. But games like today's show why he was important to our success. Current midfield lacks a bit of athleticism. Andy, I love our midfield. I love Thiago. Henderson's skipper, supreme. Fabinho is Fabinho. When he's on his game, he's the best DM in midfield in Europe. But I still agree with that end statement. Can that make sense? Can both things be mutually exclusive, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, it's no secret that we need to finally get a player in that midfield, who's like a box to box player, if you like, and can when he picks the ball up, drive through midfield. Thiago's more of a passer of the ball. Fabinho, as you said, he's an enforcer. Sits there in front of that back four. Hendo's energy is excellent. I just think his passing can be his decision making.
Is there a difference, guys? Both of you can chime in on this. Is there a difference between? Sorry, there is, I think, but there's a distinct difference between being energetic and being powerful.
Yeah,
I think
there is.
I think our midfield is energetic in terms of statistically numbers of sprints, etc., running. I think there's a slight lack of power, in my opinion.
Like drive, you mean? Like
drive and power. Yeah. I think definitely. They were like for me, Rodri ran that first half.
Yeah.
Very easily, as Dan was saying, very easily. He was first to every ball. He was far stronger, and he was far safer with the ball. Our lads treated it like a hot potato, and I didn't expect that, lads.
Yeah, I was saying to Dan, off the show before we went live, it just felt like we haven't played a top team like this for a while, Grizz, and Man City, not going to play many teams like Man City, and it just felt like that in that first 15 minutes. We were like, whoa. We haven't come up across a team like this for a long, long time.
Yeah, but Andy, we have to be,
didn't it?
Yeah, but we should be. We shouldn't be.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Everything was geared. The rotations that we were using in midfield in previous games. Do you remember we were speaking about being able to rotate a couple here and there?
Yeah.
Just so that we have the optimum midfield, the optimum energy, the optimum mentality going into the City game. We should have been ready for it far more, in my opinion.
100%, definitely. I totally agree. And it was pretty evident, wasn't it, in the second half when they came out that they got rattled by Klopp. Klopp 100% rattled them lads in that half time because there was so many players off their game. But like you said, I've never seen us try clear a ball. What we're doing? We're trying to clear a ball like we was some sort of, bottom of the table team. We've never played football like that. We get it down, we play, we try to find passes in the channels, get it into our front three. It was literally, like you said, we treated it like a hot potato, and that's not Liverpool. And that's not a Klopp team. And I think you saw in the second half, Grizz, when they came out, Klopp 1,000,000% rattled some of them boys because we were much, much better. I thought it was a much more even second half in terms of the battling aspect of the game.
After all that, Dan, they dominated. They had a chance, didn't they, before they scored?
Yeah.
They should, and it was coming from the experienced people: Matip, Virgil, Hendo, Alisson. Like, I know he made some wonderful saves, but he was giving me, and I'm going to say it live on my show, I don't care. He's the best goalkeeper that I've ever seen in my life, and I love him to bits, but he's so overrated when it comes to people talking about his ability on the ball. He's so overrated, Alisson. He's the best goalkeeper. I'm not taking away from him, but with the ball at his feet, he's not as good as people make out. And I think someone needs to have a word with him as well. Honestly, there is a difference between delivery in terms of releasing the ball, kicking it from foot, and quick and finding. But there's a difference between the balls being played back to him and him taking his time trying to pick out passes. I don't think it's for him at the moment.
No,
it's no strength.
Do you know what I put it down to more than anything? I think the ability's all there with the ball at his feet, and I think his sort of passing range is exceptional. But I actually think it's more of a decision-making problem that he has.
Possibly,
because it seems to be it either dwells on it for too long, so he doesn't make the decision quick enough, or when he does make the decision, it's not the right one. A couple of times today, he played it into somebody, and you thought, that's not the pass, because someone's on him. I think there was one with Trent, and Trent had found himself in like a makeshift left-back position, and Trent's position was all wrong. And he gets the ball inside the area, and straight away the City player on him, and you think, that's a really poor decision. And I think Alisson is so good with the ball at his feet, and he's been brought up to play that way, and we want him to play that way. He almost takes... there's an element of risk, isn't there, that you're happy with, and I think he goes above that every now and then. And I, like you, would like to see him maybe deal with them situations slightly differently.
Yeah, I think you make a fair point, actually. You've calmed me down, Dan. Yeah, you've calmed me down. Maybe it's my jet lag kicking in. But he just he I think it's his decision making.
Yeah.
But then how do you improve decision making? I've always wondered like this, like how through experience is one answer. Like, familiarity, as Andy spoke about, in terms of having familiarity with your players and teammates, your decision making becomes better because you know who to give it to at what moment, in what situations. I don't know. I just think someone needs to have a word with him in terms of his decision or speed of thought. Then maybe and go. Sticking with you, Dan, for the first goal. I think it was indicative of our start. They get a free kick and we just switch off, don't we? We don't normally switch off like that, man. And they get a chance to run at us, and obviously in the end it's a deflection, but just frustrating, right?
Yeah, really frustrating. But it, like you say, indicative of the start, really. It kind of had been coming because obviously Sterling has the big chance, and Alisson, for as much as we didn't rate his kicking today, is an outstanding save, and he keeps us in the game at that point.
Brilliant.
But then it's City again, just being that little bit sharper. And Andy's dead right in what he says. We started the game like we've started games recently against lesser opposition. We were playing in second gear, and City were playing in fifth from word go, which we should have been. And that was what came. That's how the goal came about. They get a free kick, they stop it, they play, and we're miles off it. Fabinho gets beaten. Had a poor game today, by the way. He gets beaten. And then when we're even off the shot, we're standing off it. And listen, at the end of the day, deflection's unlucky. It's cruel, it's unfortunate. Gives Alisson no chance. Not particularly pretty of a goal to concede. But did they deserve it? 100%.
They did deserve it, Andy. And Dan just mentioned something about backing off. Our defenders backing off.
Yeah,
we've seen a couple of occasions in recent games. Dan, do you remember we done the Champions League one? We were talking about the Lautaro Martinez, and we backed off. And we talked
that was
about
Van Dijk that time as well.
Van Dijk. Then there was the Leicester City one.
Yeah,
when we lost there. A couple of more games don't come to mind, but there was a couple of situations where we actually started thinking, Andy. Maybe it's a coaching thing where we have so much belief in the keeper behind us that we're saying if you want to have a pop shot from 25, 20 yards, we fancy our chances. Our goalkeeper fancies our chances. So do you think it's a tactical thing, or do you think it's just our defenders being lazy, or what is it?
I think it's exactly what you just said. I just think it's I mean, I was at that Inter game, the Lautaro Martinez goal. I was there, and it's exactly what it felt like. It felt like Van Dijk was on, go on, then have a shot. I've got Alisson behind me. He's saving this. And that's what it felt like a little bit today. And like you said, all the other goals that you've mentioned, or all the hesitancy of closing that strike down, I think it simply is because we've got such an immense goalkeeper behind us. And I don't know if Klopp encourages it for Alisson to make this. I'm not sure if that happens, but I think the mentality of the players is just that. What you said, I think you nailed it there. I think it's simply because we've got Ali behind us. And he more than likely saves them shots, doesn't he?
We've seen it from Trent as well sometimes, and Matip as well. It's a collective. But then our rest of our defending and offside line is so aggressive.
Yeah,
so good.
It's confusing, isn't it? It's like the rest of our defensive line is all about front foot aggression play, because Man City is probably one of the hardest teams to play against in terms of making it tough, compressing them. Because they showed today, even against a supreme pressing team like Liverpool, they still managed to find pockets of space. They made the pitch so wide, didn't they?
Yeah.
So massive. And we thought that could play into our hands. And obviously, as they tired, we grew into it in the second half. But as Dan says, the first half, we deserved that to go. Antio Chill says, Dan, didn't you get the memo? Where is your hat? He didn't get the Dan, fortunately, is the only one with hair. So that's
what it is, man. You got to look good for the camera, innit?
That's what it is. So Dan's the only one who's sort of,
still repping the hair. I just remembered, Grizz, by the way, Norwich at home scored a very similar goal, deflection off Fabinho, just for come to me a minute ago.
Was it Fabinho?
No, off Matip, sorry. I just seen Fabinho's name. That's my fault. Yeah, it was Matip.
That was Matip as well.
Yeah.
So look, there is that element of maybe it's a tactical thing that we rely on our keeper and we think he's good. We go behind, Dan, and I still don't think we're in the game. I still don't think we've come to terms with the pace of their press. There's still no assuredness in our play, I still feel. Thiago's slightly getting better, but the only one. But we get a goal, we as we do, and again it's that guy Trent with the assuredness of a maturity of a fully fledged midfielder that's been played ages there. Instead of thrashing that across or drilling that across, he just kind of just lays it back into Jota, who, along with the other two, I'm not just singling out Jota, along with the other two, Mane and Salah, had stank out the place, let's be honest, in that opening exchanges. But Jota's the man in the right place at the right time to bring us back into the game.
Well, if we're being really honest, aside from Alisson's save, we'd stank out the place to the side up until that point. That was the one passage of play we put together for the entire opening 15 minutes. And it just so happened that we scored from it. So it shows you, A, the quality that we do possess and the fact that we are capable of hurting City. Obviously, we went on to do it a few more times. But up until that point, it felt like we weren't capable of hurting City, and it felt like we weren't ever going to put anything together. We probably kept the ball for 2 or 3 minutes at that stage, which we hadn't done at that point. And all of a sudden, it resulted in 3 or 4 high-quality passes, starting with Andy Robertson. Trent's pullback's exceptional, and we score. So essentially out of nothing, essentially out of just managing to keep the ball for 2 minutes, something comes of it. Jota's finish isn't the most clinical he'll ever be, but listen, it goes in and he finds a way, doesn't he?
He does find a way, Dan. He does find a way. Andy, what did you think of the performance up till that point from the team? I guess I tried to single out the forwards, which is unfair because, as I said, Fabinho, Matip, Van Dijk, Alisson. Well, no, I'll excuse Alisson. But the three that I call the Great Wall of China, the Great Wall of Liverpool should be, they're the ones that were sort of, for me, not playing at the optimum, not leading from the front. They seemed timid. They seemed to be lackadaisical. I don't know. This was the wrong game for them all three to have that game, right?
Yeah. It's because it's like what Dan said. We've been in cruise control for such a long time in games where we're not playing that much of a higher level opponent, and we carried that into today's match for some stupid reason. I thought the 10 players were terrible, mate. I thought all 10 players on that field in the first half were poor. Even Virgil's making bad mistakes.
Yeah.
Robbo.
Decision making.
Yeah,
like we're talking about Alisson. I think that decision making illness was creeping all over the pitch, and it started from the experienced players.
Exactly. The only player that I'll give props to is Alisson, simply because of the save he made against Sterling. Yeah. It was an outstanding one-on-one save, the best one-on-one goalkeeper in world football.
Definitely.
And that's why I don't hammer him for that first half. But everyone was just so off the game. I was watching the game with my son today, Grizz, and he's 14 years old. He was going absolutely mental at the TV. He's like, "What's going on? Like this isn't how we play football." It was, for me, it was just all that panicky stuff we were doing at the back. It's like, that's how bottom of the table teams act.
Guys, do you know what, Andy? Do you know what it reminded me of, guys? It reminded me of our start in the Champions League game that we won there. But do you know how City started in that game? I don't know if you guys remember. The first 15, 20 minutes, we thought, this is going to be, they're going to get us back here. But what the difference was, we weathered that storm, but we grew back into it. It took us, we didn't get back into it until the second half, which we're going to get into. Yeah. But we had a far more experienced team as well, Dan, this time, which was very surprising, because I knew we were going to pick our most experienced team. Yeah. And I knew we're going to be very well, and I thought, we're going to be very well prepared for this, because we've gone to atmospheres. We've gone to Atletico Madrid only a few weeks ago. We've gone to, the Chelseas. We've gone everywhere in Europe. We've done it all. We've seen it all before. And Man City is not the most intimidating atmosphere in terms of, close-knit atmospheres, the passion of the supporters. But what they have got is, what they lack in that sense, they bloody make up for skill, talent, and energy, don't they? And again, Dan, that guy Silva was immense in that pivot in midfield alongside Rodri, wasn't he? Because there was a slight adjustment. It seemed like Rodri was employed as the sole destroyer, and Silva was playing parallel alongside him, as opposed to as an 8. Did you see that little difference as well?
Yeah, there was that difference. He was more the one going hunting, wasn't he? Whereas Rodri was almost sitting and waiting and dictating play. But Bernardo Silva, you got to give him credit. As much as I don't really like to, because I'm definitely not his biggest fan. He's a nuisance, isn't he? And not only is he a nuisance, he's high quality when he gets the ball as well. He's very technically gifted. You've got to give him credit. But City are blessed with technically gifted players, aren't they? Like I say, really, it's hard, because obviously you want to give credit to City, but it's difficult too when you've seen Liverpool play so far below their level. Like, if we'd have turned up today and played at level we all expected and all know we can do, and it ended 2-2, you can say, you know what, one of them things. But it's really frustrating because we've been miles below it. I think for 2 minutes either side of our goal, we were at it. And I think as soon as we scored, we pretty much fell off again and allowed City to come back into the game. It was so, because you thought once we scored, okay, that's it now. Settle our nerves. We've arrived. Get into the game. Didn't happen. Big players again. Van Dijk, Thiago, Fabinho again. Just never at any point in that first half did we start to play our football. And that's what's so frustrating. I actually do wonder, you mentioned athleticism earlier, and we've already spoken about the Firmino situation. Like, far be it from me to question Klopp, and I'm sure he'll be questioning himself now. We might have missed a trick with this team selection today. You could have even looking at Naby Keita, because as good as that midfield is, there was something missing today, especially in the first 45.
Yeah. But even with Naby, Dan, and obviously the other players that didn't even make the squad, like your Harvey Elliott's, I think Curtis Jones was in the squad. Who else?
Yeah. Ox was out.
Ox.
And
Ox was out, yeah. But if we go through those midfielders, Dan, the one thing that they all lack, in my opinion, it may not be everyone else's opinion, but is power and explosiveness.
I think Keita could have brought that. He's the closest to Wijnaldum we've currently got, Naby Keita.
Yes, agreed. I absolutely agree with that, and especially his last few performances that we've touched upon in the past, that he looks to have not perfected it, but sort of grown into that role of the genie. right? With just as much technical ability as well.
Yeah.
But Andy, it was a difficult decision to make. I couldn't have seen any more changes because in midfield, that was the midfield that we were always going to go to, wasn't it?
It was, and it's a shame because you know Naby actually was excellent.
He was
during the week against Benfica. Thought it was really, really good. And this is sometimes what maybe frustrates Naby Keita is he maybe feels like he's getting into the rhythm of finally getting into this team, and then he has a good game, and then the next game he's on the bench again, and it's sort of like stutters his rhythm. I was actually calling for Naby to come on in that second half because, like what Dan said, I think what Naby's really good at doing is carrying the ball through midfield and pushing teams back. We didn't have
Henderson
that.
Henderson and Thiago don't have that. You're spot on.
No.
And recent teams that have shown how to beat City. In fact, we've shown how to beat City. Do you remember the likes of Ox being, making us
driving?
Brilliant.
Exactly. But this is it, and none of our midfielders have got that to beat the press. So Thiago's got a turn to evade a press, but not get away from the guy. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
I guess Curtis Jones could have had that. I think
he's got a bit of arrogance. Yeah,
but big game. That was But you're right, Naby Keita. Do you remember Gini when he was really in the mood in big games where he'd get the ball and he'd fucking fly 20 yards with it, people falling off his back and everything. Against City as well,
He used to do it against City all the time. He used to get City against City all the time. Gini was always probably the best midfielder in the side, simply because you need that sort of midfielder to play against City. In my opinion, anyway. We've proved it as well when we've beaten them in a few games that Gini's always been one of the main men in that midfield when we've done it. I think one thing I will say is that maybe Klopp is starting to show a bit of trust in Naby by bringing him on today.
For sure.
He brought him on today did he come on for the skipper, didn't he?
Yeah.
Naby today. So that shows maybe he's starting to get a little bit of trust in him. I think he's been hitting the gym as well, if I'm being honest. His upper body strength looks like it's getting a bit more powerful. Maybe that's what
needed to change, though, didn't it?
Yeah,
needed to get stronger.
You need to be, a little bit more
sturdy,
stronger. But he's a player today. I think, in my opinion, we would have been much better in the first half if he had started today. I think he would have carried the ball out much better than what we did. Yeah. It's just my opinion. I just go by.
Who would you have left out then?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it.
You know what it was? I just was really impressed with how our midfield played during the week against. I know it's Benfica and it's not Man City, but there was a nice flow to our game a little bit with that midfield. I felt. I don't know. You're right, Grizz. He was never going to start today. He was going to go with his tried and trusted.
Asim relays, appreciate the support, my friend. That's actually my personal friend, Asim, who was actually at the game today. Amazing home and away fan. Asim, great show, guys. A pulsating game. A poor first half, but we showed great mental strength to come back into it. Today was proof we lack a dynamic midfielder who is comfortable on the ball, but we move. Kind of bang on. Exactly what we just discussed. That it showed that even though we've got lovely technical ball play, and the weird thing is, guys, right? The weird thing is, I was speaking to a couple of mates, and we're talking about sort of how our games evolved or evolving, and how we used to have the dynamic, powerful midfield, but not the ball, the technical flair, maybe of keeping hold of the ball. We now seem to have that. But now we seem to have run a couple of these midfielders into the ground, like Gini was definitely run into the ground. Henderson, you can see feeling the effects of it. Very rarely lasts 90 minutes now. Fabinho, if he plays 2, 3, 4 games in a row, his 5th and 6th look like what it looked like today. It just seems like sometimes our midfielders, the more you stretch, make the pitch, you can bypass our midfield slightly too easily for my liking. And I think that's where we will look to address in the summer. I hope so. Anyway, that's one area where we will have to look for a more dynamic, powerful type midfielder. Almost, and we have to say it, someone who can give Fabinho far more rest than he's currently getting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you know what, Briz? Just quickly on that, yeah. When you talk about dynamism in midfield, do you remember at the beginning of the season when Klopp made a big point about Ox being one of the best dynamic midfielders in the Premier League?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember. He said that, and I think it's very telling that he's not been putting him in squads. He's not been playing him much. That Ox will be off in the summer, and he will be going for that dynamism he was talking about with Ox. He's obviously not seen it with Ox, so he's blatantly going to be going for someone of that stature. You know, picking the ball up, driving forward and stuff.
Well, I think Fabio Carvalho is the Ox replacement. That's my opinion. I think he's exactly that type of player. What I was referring to today, of course, not in terms of stature physically. But he's got that dynamism of the of getting the ball, receiving it on the half turn, beating a player and running with it, moving up phases of play by 20 yards just by one turn. We haven't got that. Like Ash says, Fabinho never had pace anyway. True, it's just none of the three have it, and that's what's lacking. You know, we've probably got the quickest front three, but we've probably got the slowest midfield three. You know, in fact, I don't know. People in the chat, let us know who could be a slower three than the ones we've got. But Dan, I don't know about you. I think I do know about you. I think we were all breathing a sigh of relief at halftime, going level.
Was it level at halftime?
2-1
down at halftime.
Sorry,
I wish it was level at halftime.
Sorry. What? Yeah. I remember saying at the time. Sorry, I remember get into halftime. You know. On level.
Getting to half time was a breather,
but
it wasn't. And
we were clinging on at that stage, Chris. So you're half writing what you say, because even though we were 2-1 down in the game, I think we all felt Jurgen Klopp needed 15 minutes with the lads to make 100%. Something happen, because we've seen a lot of performances recently which have been sort of. I was at Arsenal away, as you know, and we were awful for 45 minutes there, and that's what came into my mind on about 40 minutes. But we've done this recently and turned it round. So I was looking forward to half-time, even though we weren't leveling the match. Half-time couldn't come quick enough, because something had to give, either in personnel and what we're talking about here. Very rarely makes change at half-time. The one time he's ever made an early change was Naby Keita in Madrid. That's like the only time I can really remember him doing that tactically anyway. So, I think 45 minutes was a blessing, because, let's face it, we were a different side straight away in the second half.
Massive. We were, but you know, me being a Liverpool fan, I totally just bypassed their goal. Andy, what did you make of their goal? I mean, I don't know where to start. Again, look, I know you guys have calmed me down about Alisson, but again, it was his distribution. I thought it started from there, was too slow, leads to Matip having a panic attack. Corner, it's chaos, and that's just so not us. Andy, I was going mad at that goal.
Yeah, me too, mate. That's what frustrated me mostly about today was, apart from Kamara's chance that we're going to come on to in the second half, and Sterling's chance in the first couple of minutes, they didn't really create real big opportunities.
They didn't.
And that's what frustrates me, is the goal.
In the end, it was a deflection. In the end, it's a deflection where we haven't been alive and alert. We've considered a free kick, and it's not like us to argue with referees.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't normally do it, but this time we've decided to question the referee, whatever, and they've been quick deflection. And even the second goal, you're giving probably on a par or some would say better, the most creative fullback in world football, head up time to pick out a pass.
Yeah.
As you're strolling out from a corner.
Yeah, it's poor.
It was poor. It was just poor all round. And like Dan said, we needed that 15 minutes. Unfortunately, they got that goal. But we needed that 15 minutes, because I know Klopp said in his press conference, you know, he didn't have to say much. But me personally, I reckon he shut that door, bolted it closed, and he hammered everyone in that changing room, because they needed that hammering in that changing room, because everyone was it was so below par, and it's not like us to be, especially in such a big, massive game.
Yeah,
title deciding game.
We normally, me and Dan have discussed it before as well. we normally raise it in the big games.
Yeah.
We know how to coast through games that we know kind of in the back of our head that we can control, and we can raise a gear if we need it. But in big games, we're very rarely not on it.
Yeah, and that's just it. Again, I'll go back to what I was saying. It's almost like we forgot what it's like to play against a good side, where, you know, these sides that we've been playing of recent, you know, we've been in first and second gear. And then when we need to turn it on, we just go bang. But you can't do that against Man City because, like Dan said, and like what you said, Grizz, they're already in fifth gear, mate, as soon as the kickoff went. So we was always playing catch up in that first half. So I don't know, maybe it's a little kick up the arse for the last 7 games of the league and going into the Benfica game and the cup semi-final. Maybe that's what we needed today, a little, you know, just a little kick up the arse to just to remind us that we can't coast through games because we're so good. Do you know what I mean?
Jasmine comes in with another comment on a super chat. He says, I underestimated how good Gini was for us. I think majority of non-Gini fans have underestimated how good he was for us. Gladly take him back now. Ox has got the dynamism, but he's very attack-minded. Doesn't have the defensive nous and discipline of central midfielder. Gini was perfect for us. And then he's got a sad emoji. No point crying over spilt milk, lad. No point crying over. He's gone now. We move on. And that's what we had to do in that second half. We had to go in 2-1 away to the best team in Europe. Probably the hardest game, as I've said. All of that. A chance to put a buffer between us. I would have sat here today and said the title's over, and people would have said, oh, come on, Chris, don't give up. And I would have said, well, that's just my opinion. Not the fact that I don't think we're capable of winning our last 7. I just don't think I know they've dropped points recently, but every team has a blip, and I think that was their blip. They've shown in their performances in the last few games, they're back. They seem to be back on it. Dan, we dug in. Something's happened. As Andy says, did Klopp go mad, do you think? Or what did he do different? Or what did we do different that sort of the second half was by far an improvement?
It's an interesting one on the Klopp thing because obviously, like Andy says, Klopp essentially said he didn't need to go mad. And it's probably right that he didn't need to go mad because all of them players should have been well aware of how below par that was. They've got into that game sort of, flying. They've won 10 Premier League games on the run. And this is like, not be all and end all. We know one thinks that, but this is massive in terms of the title race. Now, they should have known they needed to be at it, and they weren't at it. No, they don't need telling that. They're professional footballers at the very top of the game. Klopp's probably got in there and essentially said that very same thing. Said, you know, that was miles short of where you need to be.
But interesting question, Dan. I want to ask your opinion on it. It would have been one of the few times there that Klopp, as you said, there would have been about 7-8 of them that he could have had a go at, not just 1 or 2 individuals that he can change. So, you know, when you have a 1 or 2 players that have a stinker, you could possibly substitute them, replace them, whatever. Yeah. When you've got 8, 9 stinking out the gaff, and they're your big dogs, they're your Virgils, they're your Matips, they're your Hendersons, you can't really go in there shouting at them, can you, kind of thing. You got to be more. You've got to be more clever and different about it, right? You
can let Henderson do that, essentially. Yeah. I mean, even though he's part of the problem. Or you could let your Pep Linders do that. Klopp doesn't need to be the man in that situation. He could say, listen, I don't need to tell you, that was nowhere near good enough. We go out there, we sort out, otherwise things change. And in fairness to the team, it changed immediately. We, from the get-go in our second half, looked like Liverpool like the team that we know and love. Because not only were we slightly more intense in our pressing game, which we weren't in the first half, we can play City all we like, but we were below. But also, when we got the ball, we were dynamic with it, we were clever with it, we kept it. And it took, a minute and a half to actually pull something together, and away we go.
Yeah. I think, Dan, you nailed it. We showed what we've seen from other teams, and this was pissing me off, Andy. We've seen in just very recently how to score, create chances against City, and we have probably the best personnel in Europe to sort of execute those kind of tactics, but we weren't in that first half. We didn't. As Dan says, we've done it for about a couple of minutes, and we scored from it in the first half, and then it takes us 2 minutes in the second half to put a lovely move together. And 2 of our crappiest players in that first 45 minutes pull off a sensational through ball and a sensational finish and we're back in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And as Dan said, that was the Liverpool that we used to. You know, from the second half kickoff, bang, we were pressing, but the quality is what
on the ball.
What showed on the ball.
Yeah.
The quality on the ball, the passing, a 5-yard pass and a run. You know, clever runs. And I'm actually pleased because Mo Salah has been in a trance for the last 6 or 7 games. I don't know where he is. Obviously, he's tired from AFCON. He's not really regained that, you know, that fitness and that, you know, sharpness. But I think we started seeing that a little bit in him in the second half, definitely. Running at Cancelo again, you know, fainting. His shot was so unlucky, wasn't it? The one that was really strange because the ref gave a goal kick, but VAR were checking for a handball. Well, if they're checking for a handball, then it's a corner. So that was quite strange. But that was the Mo Salah that we've been looking to see again, and I thought we saw more of that in the second half. He's maybe one of them that was, you know, spoken to. Not, you know, I think the team talk I was talking about was probably the one that I was having in my head rather than the one that Klopp was having.
But definitely.
But I think him and Mane definitely improved in that second half, and probably played the best they have, believe it or not, in a while, because I think they've been well below par, them two. I thought Mane's finish, by the way, was fantastic. The Sadio that we know when he's in front of goal like that. And you know what? It was quite similar to Sterling's shot against Alisson in the first half, whereas Ali saved it with his leg. Mane's bent this one. It was a great finish, and it was a start that we needed to show that this team never gives up and it fights, man. And it's a little bit, it sort of like epitomises the title race a little bit. We were 14 points behind City, and we brought it back to 1 point, and that's sort of like what our second half performance was like.
We're just not going away, like you said.
We're there.
Dan, I agree about Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about, we've spoken about Mo Salah to death, and I think more of a physical problem. I think it's mental fatigue, Andy, with Mo. He's carried the hopes of his nation in 3 huge, epic encounters with you know, that have ended up African nations winners in Senegal and then playing them in the World Cup qualifier. So brutal. Amidst, look, people are going to talk about the contract. I just think Mo Salah is way too professional to let that affect his game. I just think it's his mental fatigue. And if he's having a month off in 4 or 5 years, guys, give the lad a break. It's literally 6 weeks. It's literally 5-6 weeks that he's not been at his scintillating best. Yet we saw glimpses in that second half. But I don't want it to make it about Mohamed Salah. I want to talk about the other 2 fellas, Dan. And I'll give you first dibs on Sadio Mane. I thought that was the best performance in that second half. I thought it showed me the Sadio Mane that I've missed personally, from a personal level. I've been his critic, so therefore I want to praise him when he's due praise. I thought he was fantastic in that second half, Dan. It was the Sadio Mane that we've been accustomed to, popping up all over the place, energy, holding off players, showing the strength, showing the acceleration away from players, eye for a goal in the finish. I just thought Sadio Mane looked absolutely back to his best, and it's brilliant vibes going into this final furlong.
Yeah, 100%. A fit, firing, and firing on all cylinders, Sadio Mane is great news, isn't it? We've seen him have sort of peaks and troughs over the past couple of years, if we're going to be brutally honest with each other. But his numbers are always pretty impressive. But yeah, that second half today was outstanding, and he's unplayable on his day. Like we all talk about Mohamed Salah, we all know how good he is, and his numbers are always better than Mane's. But in many senses, when Mane's on it, because he's so strong and he's so difficult to stop, he can be harder to deal with than Salah. So if we get them both going, then we're away. Just to say, as I agree with Andy, I think we saw glimpses of Salah being back to his best in the second half, which is so important. And not only is it important, it's actually nice to see, because he's really going through one at the minute. But today he was much better. But yeah, on Mane, much more like it. Dynamic, energetic, making things happen. Really impressed. And like you say, I think it's really positive news.
It's by the way, there's over 320 of you in here, and if we haven't got 300 likes, that's a bit poor from you lot. Pretty much like our first 45 minutes. You've still got that 15, 20 minutes to redeem yourselves like Liverpool did. So sort it out. Andy,
Yes.
I think for the first time in the game, for about 20 minutes, we looked the stronger, the more likely to score. For about 20 minutes, I'd say, before they came back into it slightly.
Yeah.
I think, was that down to they couldn't keep up the intensity that they had in the first half? Was it because we've improved so much? Combination of both? What do you think? What do you put it down to? Because our midfield suddenly finding little pockets of space. Suddenly Fabinho was picking off little passes where Thiago had time to turn, or even Henderson was far more relaxed on the ball. And even Virgil and Matip kind of calmed down, didn't they, with their passing through the lanes?
Yeah, I think it was like you said, a combination of both. We got back to how we know how we can play and how we can hurt teams. For that 20 minutes, you're talking about 25 minutes, I really thought we can go and get the third as well.
Yeah.
Especially like we said with the Salah inside, lovely, the Mo Salah that we know likes cutting inside, bending one in. That was.
It's not going to be talked about, is it? It's not going to be talked about in terms of how he took on Cancelo like he wasn't there for 3 or 4 times. Suddenly the defensive issues about Cancelo won't be talked about like if it was Trent, right?
Oh yeah,
no, definitely 100%.
Not. Yeah. And by the way, I thought Trent was excellent in the second half.
Yeah.
Defensively, I thought he was excellent in the second half. I thought we didn't give Foden a sniff in that second half. It did really well, and that was another big plus point for us as well. But yeah, I think Grizz is as the question you asked. I think it was just a combination of things again in that second half where City were always going to again come back into it slowly when our intensity, because that first 20-25 minutes was the intensity that we like to see, and it's very hard to keep that up. So and against a ball playing football side, they're always going to slowly come back into it. But I thought we made them play a lot more diagonals. They were trying to hit a lot of more diagonals to our fullbacks and stuff like that. And maybe apart from one poor decision making, where I think someone should have squared it back to De Bruyne, I thought we was quite comfortable again. Obviously, barring the last minute chance from Mahrez, where we was a little bit out of position there. But I thought I'm more optimistic about the second half performance going into this sort of next batch of games that are coming up.
Do you know what, Dan? I think it is. I mean, obviously the game ends 2-2. I guess we've got to talk about the offside goal. I guess we don't, because lines are the lines, right? We've been told there's nothing to talk about. If it's offside, it's offside. That would have hurt, right? If Sterling scored the winner.
Oh
God, that was nightmare scenario on a cake delivered to my front door. That was. I've been dreading that moment for some years now. He scored against us in the Community Shield, didn't he, a few years ago? I was there, but who's asked? But that 3-2 at the Etihad with this title race as it is was nightmarish.
Yeah.
But thankfully, as soon as I seen, and you know what? As soon as I seen it at first, I thought that's really close, but he looks just off. I've seen people a lot less offside given at the Etihad in this fixture previously. So I'm quite happy to just say he was offside. Let's move on.
Yeah, he was off, definitely. He was off.
Pixelated Pigeon, always one of my favourites in the chat with his name. He says, hi all, it's a shame Naby and Diaz didn't see much of the ball when they came on.
No, they didn't. Can I just say, towards the end of the game, it turned, after that 20-minute period whereby I thought we were the better team, and I agree with Andy, it looked like and it felt like we could go and get that third if we really put something together again. But when it turned into a bit of a basketball match, which it did towards the end, which obviously led to the Riyad Mahrez chance, we had a couple of occasions whereby we were countering. And I remember one in particular, Salah was running with the ball, and I think he had sort of Diaz, and he stopped.
Yeah.
And City were like we were at the end, sort of all out of position, trying to run back into shape in a bit of a mess. Yeah. And I thought, go on. And he didn't. And I thought it was real. And I don't blame Salah for this, because it looked like almost like a team decision not to go. Salah pulled it back, came back, and then we played through like Fabinho and Thiago again. And I thought, we're talking earlier on about like the sort of different ways this Liverpool side has played under Klopp. Now, a couple of years ago, we'd have been hell for leather going, but it was really odd. It's almost like, oh no, we don't know what we're doing here. We'll slow down, let them get in position, and then we'll attack. It was really weird.
Gary Neville said it, didn't he, Dan? When he stopped,
did he pick it up at the time? I was working during the game, so it's difficult for me to listen. But did he?
He picked it up, and you're so right. It was like that was strange because normally Mo's just bang.
So do you think
drive into that box?
But then, are you guys alluding to saying that it was a Klopp tactical decision? Let's just settle for a draw, maybe.
Yeah, it's either that. It's either 2-2 will do us. Let's get out of here. Let's live to fight another day. Or it's a stylistic thing. It's either because, like I say, a few years ago on the counter, we'd have been all over that like a cat on milk. We love that situation. It's like at West Ham a couple of years ago. That's what it reminded me of when we broke from the corner and Shaqiri played that pass. It was similar to that. Maybe not quite as open, but it was definitely a counter-attack chance. And it was a counter-attack chance that we just went, no, we don't really want it. We're all right.
Because Diaz was on the other side, wasn't he, Dan?
Yeah.
Coming forward, and then all like everyone just sort of like slowed down.
Yeah, so strange.
It was usually Mo would be whipping that across the box or something like that, running with it and then whip it across the box.
Trying something, not just going, no, we're going to play through the lines again. We're going to go back to midfield and let City all funnel back into shape because that's what happened. And it was just odd.
I think, was that before the subs, Dan, or do you think it was...
From memory, I haven't watched the game back. Like I say, I was doing the live blog during the game, so I've not been able to watch it back. I think it was about 10 minutes to go because the game was really stretched. So I'm going to say it was about the 80th minute.
Yeah, in that case, that chat that I raised earlier, Andy, about the substitutions not having the possible impact that Klopp thought they would have, I was begging for Diaz to come on back 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah, he done okay, Diaz, though, didn't he?
He did. His touches, his composure on the ball, straight away you saw it. His technical ability. His technical... And this is why, at the start of the game, I was hoping, maybe naively, maybe because I'm not a football coach, I was just hoping Diaz starts because of the fact that I would have thought he would have kept Walker quiet, who's an absolute athlete and a specimen on that right side.
That Walker.
He's not the most cleverest and sharpest of defenders,
no.
but as a physical specimen, he's probably one of the best, quickest fullbacks in world, and has been for a number of years. Underrated from that aspect, I think. And he's the only one who can physically keep up with any of our front three, and 100%. He showed that a few times, right? Where our guys give up. Where our guys give up when they're up against So I get that, but Luis Diaz would have posed a threat and been a nuisance. Klopp could have been slightly braver with his substitutions and brought them on a bit earlier, or do you think the way the game was going, it was the only time we had gained a bit of control, so that what probably swayed his mind, do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly why I think, I think if we started off in that second half like we did in that first half, I think 3 subs would have been made, mate. I think Bobby would have come on within 5 minutes. Diaz would have come on, and possibly Naby as well. But because we started getting authority in the game, he done what he usually does in the match where we're in control. Whereas he brings them on, 65, 70 minutes. But I'm with you, mate. I would have loved to have seen Diaz come on much, much earlier because I think he's so dynamic, man. He's the dynamic that we've been talking about on that wing. I just think he gives us something.
Do you know what I've compared him to, Andy? I've compared him to Mane, the young Mane. When Mane joined us, he gave us that X factor, that something was different. We know what kind of player Mo is. We know what kind of player Jota is, and we're going to get to Jota. I'm going to give Dan dibs at Jota because he's such a fan. Bobby, we know what kind of player Bobby is.
Yeah,
we didn't know what kind of player Mane was when he first came to us. We thought he's inconsistent, flashes of brilliance, unpredictable.
Yeah,
this is what Luis Diaz has brought to us. But
I
think Luis Diaz brings it with a higher technical ability than Mane. Even that's scary.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when he came on, you could actually see the City defense went back a little bit, maybe 5 yards, because they're a bit worried about Diaz coming in.
I've just put myself on mute there. But this is what Dan was alluded to about in terms of the game became, even though it became a basketball type scenario, the pitch was even more spread out because they dropped 10 yards because of Diaz, and we possibly dropped 5-10 yards when Mahrez came on. So there was sudden 100%. Space in the midfield. So the counter-attack suddenly became more thoughtful and less frenetic, maybe.
Definitely. Yeah.
I just thought that substitution could have been. And if I was to bring that substitution 10-15 minutes earlier, I would have brought off Jota. Dan, I was at the Arsenal game as well. And we discussed it after that game that he was awful, but we knew to keep Jota on the pitch, because if there's a chance, it will fall to Jota and Jota will score.
Yeah, 100%.
But his overall game was poor today, Dan. Again, finding the dynamic, I think, going forward in terms of this season and obviously the next season, I think finding the dynamic and fluidity will be key in pre-season in terms of working on this new players, because we're adding Diaz and Jota to the same front three that we've used for 4 years. So there is something to work with, but it's positive that we're still scoring goals, even though there is absolute room for improvement.
Oh, 100% room for improvement. There was a spell earlier this season whereby his all-round game improved a hell of a lot centrally, and he was still adding goals to that. And I thought, okay, then, like the Firmino-Jota conversation for me, pardon the pun, for a long time was Bobby Firmino. And then there was, a few-week period in the middle of this season whereby I thought, okay, I can't ignore Jota anymore. But now, having said that, Jota's recent performances, and I love the lad to pieces. I think he's outstanding. He's clinical, he's lethal, he's a poacher, all of the above.
His work rate, his hunger, his attitude.
But his all-round performances recently have been diabolical. Like, he's dropping genuine sort of 3, 4, 5 out of 10 performances and then scoring. He's doing it. And that's a great knack to have. Don't get me wrong. Outstanding. Goal scoring's the hardest thing to do in football, and he's superb at it. However, do we need him to keep the ball better? Do we need him to link up better? Except all the things Bobby's outstanding at, Jota's miles off at the minute.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Bobby Firmino's never been a natural goal scorer, but man, can he link us up? Can he make us play? Jota's the polar opposite of that in a minute. Yeah. The biggest disappointment for me, for Jota today, unless he scores his goal, happy days, brilliant. But his all-round play, like we said, was awful. And not only that, first half, when he actually managed to break into the box, he didn't make a decision. He did nothing.
Shoot.
And that's normally
the Mo one. And
the Mo maybe, he could pass, but he did nothing. And what I'm talking about is his sort of nature in the box is usually so cutthroat and he's so clinical. He does something, but not only was his all-round game bad today, he didn't do anything in that circumstance either. So he had a really poor one today, despite scoring again.
Dan, can I ask you a question? Sorry, Grizz, can I just ask Dan a question? Because I've had this discussion lots of times with Liverpool fans about Jota. Yeah. Do you think he just struggles in that system that Klopp we still have that 4-3-3 system, right? Where we play the false nine. Yeah. He certainly isn't a false nine. No. And when Klopp does play him in that front three, it seems like we don't change from that false nine formation. Yeah. And I think that's where he's struggling massively. I think Jota, whenever he's played on the wide left or even wide right, has been much more effective because the game's in front of him. I think 100%. back to goal is not good enough. No. I actually believe Sadio Mane is better nine than Jota is.
Yeah, well, Mane's a bit stronger for a start, and he's obviously more experienced, and he's done it more often, quite frankly. But Jota naturally is a winger, so he wants the game to be in front of him. He wants to be running in behind, and that does show in his performance. Because when we play Jota, Mane, and Salah, all three of them want to be getting in behind defenders. Not one of them wants to do that dirty work. Whereas Firmino is so unselfish. He goes, "Oh, I'll drop into space. I don't mind. Exactly. I'll do that all day long for you."
He's the best in that position.
Yeah.
And that's
why it's harsh on Jota. It's harsh because we've got Firmino, who's the best. I know.
We're going to change that next year when obviously Bobby might not be playing as many games. I think we need to evolve from the false nine because Bobby's really the only one that does it perfectly.
Yeah.
But I I agree with you. Absolutely, and I've been banging this drum. I don't think. Yeah, I'm not. I've said evolve as well, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I don't think it's evolution. I just think it's variety. I think we've got more ways of hurting teams now.
Yeah.
We've got more formation options, even though we haven't seen it, lads. I think this is why pre-season I'm looking for, even though we've got the biggest 40, 50 days of a Liverpool season ever. I'm already looking forward to pre-season. I'm looking forward to Tranmere away. How are we going to set up? do you know what I mean? But you get what I mean? Like, we're so good in terms of our coaching in pre-season, and we see the developments of Harvey Elliott-Jones and whatever. We see the improvements players have made with our coaching levels. I think you're right, Andy. I think we do need to see that kick into effect with our forward play, just our general fluidity with our forward, because we have got a variety now of different types of attackers. And you're right, Bobby. We played Jota in the Bobby role, even though Jota's a completely different player to Bobby, but we play the same system around them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that we can work on. I don't know what, but it's something to look forward to. I'm quite excited about that aspect.
Well, you alluded to the Arsenal game. The first half, Diogo was so poor in that first half. But look where he gets his goal from. He's peeled out to the wing, to the left-hand side. He's cut inside. He's made the space for Thiago to slot him in, and he scored the goal. And most of his goals do come like that. Don't get me wrong. He's scored a couple of, like you've seen the headers. He's fantastic in the air, by the way.
Yeah,
for me, I've said this on Twitter a few times. It's the closest thing I've ever seen to Robbie Fowler in terms of head, left foot, right foot.
I've heard this comparison, right? And
I'm not comparing them together because Robbie for me is the greatest ever in terms of finishing and stuff. But he's close. He's close.
Because I was gonna go at you, Andy. I was gonna take it old school, like Twitter, me and you. I was gonna go at you. I was gonna say,
I think he's just close, Grizz, in terms of how he gets our goals. He can score with his left foot, his right
foot header.
And do you remember when Robbie used to hit it sometimes first time instinctively, didn't think about anything? Like Dan said today, when he got through against City, Jota usually hitting that. He done it against Arsenal. He hit it straight away and caused problems.
The only comparison I don't accept with Jota and Robbie is Robbie was one of the most underrated. His technical ability was underrated. So everyone talks about his variety of finishes: left foot, right foot, deft finish, power, dinking it, headers, everything, right? But he's one of my favorite players, right? And obviously he didn't have the career. Yeah, he didn't have the career that he could have and should have. But in terms of his ability to find a player, I don't think Jota's got that, lads. Someone said I brought up the awareness. Yeah, I don't think he's got. Robbie had crazy awareness. Robbie was a natural footballer. Jota's more machine-like. Like Jota's a goal machine, as has been proven, right? Almost like a I compare him to Van Nistelrooy, boys. I know why the fuck am I comparing him to a United player?
He was lethal, though. Van Nistelrooy, let's be honest, he was. Pains us to say it, but he was in the 6-yard box in the penalty area. He never scored from outside the penalty area, I think I might in saying.
Yeah.
That fella was properly lethal.
No, he was. And I totally agree with what we've got what Grizz is saying. There's no way he's the new Robbie Fowler. It's just I like the way when a cross comes into the box, for instance, his timing of his header reminded me how Robbie used to score with his head. Robbie was so good in the air. And I just think, Grizz, like you said, it is exciting to see what could take place next season with this, the new front five, now front six with Carvalho coming in as well. Is going to be interesting because when we spoke about the show, he's a guy that I think can play in the 9 like Bobby, getting it because he loves finding them little pockets of space and he can play with his back to goal as well. Whereas Diogo's just, let me just look at the goal. Yeah. Give me the ball. I want to be looking at the goal. I don't want defenders behind me giving me kidney punches and little rabbit digs and stuff like that. I want to be in front of goal. And I think this is something that I've always noticed with Jota. He's still being played in a formation where we play our false 9. and he's just not a false nine, man.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Actually, you've raised it. It is something that we're looking forward to. As I said, I'm looking forward to the first preseason to see how we've developed that role for him.
With all the trophies, yeah. With
all the trophies, 100%. I'm not taking him. Well, listen, we come to the end of the show and come to the game, and we want to know where we are. So where are we, Dan? After that, because I've got this thing, right, Dan, that I think City gave it their best shot today, and they didn't put us away. I genuinely think they gave it their best shot today, put in the performance that he would have expected, manager, fans would have expected. They started off like a house on fire. They didn't put us away, Dan. We're still fucking in there. And I don't think we gave it our best shot.
No.
So I think from that aspect, I'm happy with a point, even though we don't overtake them. It's not in our hands anymore. Yeah. But if there was one game we could have afforded to draw in the last 8, this was the one. I guess.
And not only that, it was obviously the most realistic one we were going to draw. Like a win today here would have been an astronomical result. It would have been a perfect result, obviously. But yeah, it's still game on from where I stand. I think we obviously alluded to earlier on the show, like, I wanted to win there today, make absolutely no bones about it. And that's not just from like, I want to win every game, but I wanted to go there and win for the title. But given the performance we put in, I'd have bit your hand off for a draw, certainly after the first 15 minutes, because we were miles off it. And I think you're right in what you say. Pep Guardiola calls us a pain in the arse. And after putting in a genuine sort of 3-4 star performance at most today, and then being pretty much at their peak and not winning, he'll be wondering what's just happened. And from our point of view, we'll be thinking, got away with one, still in it. From a fan and player point of view. So if we can now finally put something together in terms of performance for the next few weeks, we're away. We can do it. Next Saturday, we've got them again. We played way below par, and they still couldn't beat us. If we can just raise our level to close to second half levels, we can beat these. We know that. And can I also just say, isn't it mad how this game was a mirror image of the Anfield game earlier this season?
Yeah.
If you look at the goals and what happened in terms of the home side going in front, and then it was the carbon copy of the same game. It's weird.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold the leads, could they? Both teams. We were disappointed that we didn't hold the lead in the first game, and City will be kicking themselves for not holding the lead.
2-2 both times and the same. Weird.
But guys, check this out. I think someone in the chat obviously will correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the first time Man City have not won the game when they've taken the lead, because they are one of the best teams in world football at controlling the game once they take the lead. Now, that's testimony to our fucking mentality, right, and character. And we didn't play good. We played good in phases in the second half. But overall, I wouldn't put our performance levels more than a 6/7, maybe. And as Dan says, they didn't put us away. They haven't got that buffer where they can drop points in a couple of games. It's literally one game.
One draw.
Because people are saying, because someone in the chat was saying, are you guys really off your head thinking, there we go, look, do you think City will lose 2 games if we can't? No way. No, we don't want them to. We don't need them to lose 2 games, fella.
A draw is a defeat.
This is the levels we're at. We're a draw.
Do you know what, Grizz? I also think, I'm just touching on what Dan said and what you said, I think that would have been disheartening for City today.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that's disheartening for their players, like you said, because they did really want to do us today, and they couldn't put us away. If I'm at Anfield today, and we played like City did, drawn that game 2-2, I'm pissed going home. I'm telling you that now. I'm pissed going home, and I think that result today, a little bit of a, I don't know, nice little. I don't want to tempt it.
No. It is true. They should have been 3-1 at halftime. Yeah. They should have been 2-3.
More maybe.
Not 2-1. They should have been 3-1 at a minimum at halftime, and we've got away with it. They've hit the post, I think, as well once.
The free kick from Mahrez,
You know, they've had chances with the Mahrez. We didn't even discuss the Mahrez chance at the end. I mean, that was again fucking pivotal. It's just everything's pointing towards twists and turns, and that's a major miss right at the end, Dan, wasn't there? Like, he's done all the hard work, as they say, and then he's tried to be too cute with the
That's down to Alisson, though.
Yeah, it's Alisson's positioning. He's raced out and made him do something, hasn't he? But Riyad Mahrez blazing it over the bar against Liverpool. Absolutely nothing new there, lads. Let's be honest. We've seen that before. I
was at that game as well.
Yeah, I was as well. Yeah, but no, you're right. That's a huge moment. And how often are these titles? We look back at their moments and these fine margins. Yeah. And do you know what? I've seen someone compare it on Twitter before to Dembele's miss at the Nou Camp.
Barca,
we came back, yeah. And that would have killed the game at 4-0. We all know what happened, but 4-0 away, you don't come back from that. Let's be honest, as ridiculous as our comeback was. Yeah. And someone compared in terms of, because the situation was quite similar, like Dembele was well through and then he hashes it up. This could well be, if we look back in a few weeks' time, having won the Premier League, we might look back on that and go, good job we missed that.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, we lads, I don't know, man of the match. Andy, any thoughts, any honourable shouts, and who do you want to give it to?
Man of the match.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
It is. It's a hard one because of everyone's first half performance.
Yeah.
I would probably go.
Second half man of the match then. Let's say not. Man of the second half. Let's just say it like that. Word it like that.
Sadio.
Okay.
Sadio did really well second half.
Do you know what? I was really tempted to go with Salah, to be honest with you, earlier on. I must admit, just because I thought it was so much better second half. I was really impressed. But I think I'm going to go with Andy Robertson. Because in a very, very sketchy performance, pretty much across the board, he was solid in both aspects. I thought defensively he was probably the standout, and I thought in an attacking sense he also offered a lot all day. So out of anyone, him and Alisson are probably the two that come away from this game thinking, do you know what, I'm all right there. Pretty much everyone else can go, not really.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. I'm going with Sadio. I think it's time he got flowers for his performances. Sadio was immense in that second half. Again, visions of Sadio playing through the middle again. You know, we've just discussed how our attack could sort of work through the summer, how we work in pre-season. I think we're going to work on that, lads. I think we're really going to work on Sadio Mane playing through the centre. It could be a new lease of life. Probably sold now in the summer. Honestly, because look, Luis Diaz is the new kid on the block, and it's not about new shiny toy. It's not about forgetting what Sadio Mane means to us and what he's done for us. It's about, improving the squad, improving the team, more competition. Yeah. For me, Luis Diaz is a definite starter in majority of the games from a left wing position.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Andy?
Oh,
and therefore that makes Sadio a very viable option through the centre, even though we've spoke about Jota being there as well. But look, that's a job for Klopp to sort out, right?
Yeah, mate, 100%. So Luis Diaz playing at Liverpool right now reminds me, like you said, of when Sadio Mane came to Liverpool. So exciting, waiting for something to happen, unpredictability, because he picks up, sometimes we say that he's on the left, then sometimes you'll see he's gone through the middle or he's come over to where Salah is. And
did you see how we had a throw in from Trent and he ran all the way across to sort of lay the throw off?
And I like that unpredictability about him as well. And I agree with you. Next year he's gonna feature in most of our games, Luis Diaz. But as you said with Sadio, I think there definitely can be a case of him maybe playing through the middle next year. If we evolve our game, our front, the way Klopp likes his front three to perform, because again, I'll go back to it. There's no other Bobby Firmino in the team that can play that number 9 role. So that has to change, because we know that Bobby's not been playing that many games. Yeah. He's just doesn't have that. He's run his socks off for Klopp. He's got hardly, he needs a rest so he can play like that in certain games. He can't do that how he done it for 3 years, 4 years in a row. It's just not humanly possible, man. The guy was just a machine in that role, So I think we need to definitely look at evolving the way we play in our front three.
I think we've got now we go to sort of Benfica. Dan, just very, very briefly and quickly.
Yeah.
I guess we rotate few for the Benfica game.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
think
fair
so.
enough. I think Mo is one of them that we should really rest. What your thoughts?
That's so difficult with Mo, isn't it?
I
Because
know.
not only obviously his quality is there for all to be seen, but you just know he'll be saying, "No, I want to play. I want to play," because he wants to play himself back into form, and we did see signs of that today.
Yeah.
For me, I would start him. I'd look to give him an hour. Hopefully, he scores in that hour. Comes off confident. Comes off qualified. Jobs are good, and we move on.
Yeah.
But in terms of rotation, generally speaking, your Naby Keita's playing. I think Canate potentially comes back in for Matip. There's a case for playing Tsimikas in this one. We haven't seen him for a long time. There's a case. Listen, we can't fully rotate. I'm not expecting wholesale changes. But for me, Tsimikas, Robertson isn't a massive drop-off. So I've got no issues there. But I don't expect to see Jordan Henderson. I don't really expect to see Diogo Jota.
But Dan, the side note to that is if you don't expect some of the players that played today playing on, is it Wednesday we're playing this week?
Wednesday night this week,
Wednesday. Do Man City play on the same night?
Yeah, they will be, yeah.
So they're playing on they won't be resting anyone, right?
Because they can't, they're 1-0,
they can't afford
it's only
to.
1-0.
Now, are you suggesting that looking forward to next week then, lads, are we playing the same lineup then against Man City? Or are we expecting a few changes against Man City? Because does the FA Cup semi-final, is it as important as the Champions League and the league to us? Klopp's mindset. Do we play a strong team against Benfica, get another early goal or two, and then make 5 possible changes? Because and then
it all counts on Wednesday. It all counts on Wednesday. What happens on the weekend for me? If we get the job done early against Benfica.
But what are you suggesting, though? What are you suggesting? A strong team, or are you suggesting like what me and Dan are saying, 3 or 4 changes?
There will be changes. I think there will be changes, but even the changes grids are still going to be quite strong.
Yeah.
In terms of like a front three, I go with Dan. I think that second half performance from Salah, Klopp's thinking tonight, you know what? Let me keep that rhythm going.
He's not far away now.
Let me keep that rhythm going. He starts. I think Bobby starts. And I think Luis Diaz starts in that front three.
Yeah.
But then weekend?
Midfield.
But then weekend?
Again, it's all going to go down to this game on Wednesday. How quick we can get the job done. Who comes off early, stuff like that. The weekends, I think the weekend he could change it about. I think he could change it about against City. I think you could maybe see a Naby Keita starting in the FA Cup semi-final. Something like that. Yeah. Do you know what, today? I was a little bit... I know Matip's been excellent today, but I was really worried sometimes about his pace when he was chasing back Fodens and, them players. I think Konate's a bit quicker than him, and I think he might even play in the semi-final.
I don't know. See, this is it. I think, guys, sounds mad, right? I think we've got more options and more scope for change than Man City.
Look at the benches today, 100%.
And the team that spent $500 million building that squad, we've now suddenly got more options and variety to change things about and less weakening us than they would be. So, for example, if Fernandinho and Gundogan come in for them, that's far weakening them.
Yeah.
Far weakening them.
And they might come in for the semi-final. You never know.
It's set up nicely. Yeah. Sorry, go on, Dan, you was going to say something.
Yeah, no, it's a good point just to say, because City this week, we've still got a job to do against Benfica. Yes. Let's have it right. 100%. Let's not get carried away. However, you would expect that job to be completed with minimum fuss, I think I'm fair in saying. Yes. Whereas City Atletico have really got a job on their hands. And we've been to the Wanda a few times in the past few years. We know what it can be like there. Not easy. It wasn't easy. This year, when we race into a lead, look like we had them, and then they come back. So for me, City are going to get tested, and Guardiola cannot afford to make changes in the week, which is perfect for us.
Exactly.
I think Pep plays a far changed team against us in the FA Cup.
I do.
Yeah, that's what I do as well. You mentioned Fernandinho maybe and Gundogan in the semi-final.
Because if he drags out Rodri, like Rodri was a fucking one-man wrecking machine today, then Rodri's in for a battle at his old club on Wednesday.
The problem with Atletico is... Sorry, Chris. I'll cut you short there. Sorry, man. I'm saying the problem with Atletico is they might not win the game against City, but one thing you know for sure is they are going to physically hurt you. For that 90 minutes, they're going to physically hurt you.
Good.
They're that sort of side.
I'm just hoping Diego Simeone at some stage comes on, slide tackles Kevin De Bruyne, puts him out for the second. That'd be amazing as well. That would be amazing as well. Like, he's lost the game, he's lost the tie, and he just thinks, like Simeone, the mad cunt that he is. Everyone, we know he's a mad cunt. Comes on and just slides tackles De Bruyne. That'd be amazing. But listen, guys, look, we look forward to this game. And I don't think it let us down in terms of, we knew that it's going to be a hard game. It's going to be a tough game. We weren't up against Muppets. We were up against a class outfit, a class manager. And just very quickly, guys, what did you think about at the end, the Pep and Klopp hug, and sort of just the general respect? Some call it cringiness from them too. What's your guys' opinion on it? Are you okay with it? It's not quite Wenger and Mourinho and Ferguson, is it? Where there was hatred. It's kind of different, isn't it?
So it's very different. Mutual respect. It's a respect, man. Sorry, Dan. Yes, it's a respect, mate. It's look at the stats that were put up the other day. 339 points to 338. When you're a manager and you're up against another manager that's got a similar, you're going to be respecting that man. You know what I mean? And, feelings mutual. It's going to be a mutual respect. I like it, to be honest. That sometimes the arguments with the Wenger and Ferguson, that was more cringy for me than anything. Mm-hmm. I thought sometimes it was a little bit overplayed, the way they used to pretend to hate each other. And look at they're all friends now. So at the end of the day, I like the respect from Pep and Jurgen. So no problem my end.
Yeah. Rodney says extra time for City Madrid would be perfect. Yeah, that will be icing on a cake if they get a late equalizer to make it 1-1. Oof. And then go to extra time and then just mentally drain them as well and physically drain them as well. But you never know. City have type of team to go away and just get 2 goals, bang, bang, bang.
Just batter them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we focus on ourselves. We're still in it, people. The show must go on. The show goes on. We live to fight another day. We live. Look, the way I've been saying it, and the way the majority of the fan base is saying it is, the quadruple's on until it's not on.
Yeah,
and I believe it's still on. And so we keep fighting. We go to Benfica. No, Benfica come to us. Hopefully, as Dan says, we don't disrespect the tie. I know we may have come across disrespecting to the tie, but we really should put that to bed.
No,
that should be fine. Semi-final next week. I'm going to be there. Hopefully, it's a cracker of a game. Again, I think teams are going to be interesting. What our mindsets are in terms of how we see the rest of the season. I think it's going to be indicative of how they set up and the personnel we pick. And we go on. And then the following, lads, we've got Man United at home where, fingers crossed, if we beat them, we go top of the table again. And then it's over to Man City. So many twists and turns to come. I don't believe the race is over. I think Man City are favourites after today, but I genuinely don't think that it's over. Many twists and turns. This has been really enjoyed the chat today, first and foremost, guys. Really, thank you very much for coming on, both of you, man. Plenty of respect.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us on, mate. Pleasure.
The other red fellas, have a go at them, people in the chat. They all bottled it. Couldn't last the pace of the game. Tired them out. Absolute wimps, all of them. I've just travelled around the world and still managed to do this show. And, the wimps, even though, by the way, not enough comments on my war hat that I've managed to purchase from Turkey. This is the old Ottoman hat, which apparently I could have bought on eBay. I didn't have to go to Turkey for it. But hey, listen,
live and learn.
You live and learn. Do you know what I mean? Guys, this has been a fantastic show. I just realised I've got to close the show out. I've got no friends that can help me out with that today. So I'm going to end the broadcast and go out with this intro. And we're going to see you very soon, guys. Take care.